in this video, we're going to texture it in Substance Painter. So I brought it into Substance Painter. And one thing I want to point out is that I also assigned some materials. So I've got a propane body, I've got a propane knob, and a propane nozzle. All right, so 3 materials, and it's time to texture this thing. And the first thing to do is to bake the mesh maps. So I'm going to do that at 2K, uncheck ID, I don't need that, and bake. I want to have a look at the squares, so the resolution doesn't look too bad. We are going to have some seams, and we'll have to deal with that, but we put those seams in purposefully, if that's a word, and we'll take it from there. All right, so there is the model unwrapped and baked, and it looks okay, and we're going to get started. We're going to get started on the propane tank body. I'm going to delete that, and we're going to add a fill layer. This is going to be metal. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to just darken that just a little bit, and I'm going to drop the roughness down to about 2.5, metallic all the way up. So this is our base metal here. All right, I'm going to add a filter, and the properties, this filter I'm going to choose is this matte finish rough. Add that. Now, I'm going to have our first seam to deal with. As I scroll around here, you can see there's a seam right there. All right, so I'm going to scroll down here, triplanar mapping. I'm going to click true. That should get rid of that for us. And now I'm going to bring the scale up to about 6 on this, decrease the brushing intensity a little bit, and we'll have this kind of mottled appearance on our metal. Okay, next I'm going to add another fill layer, and I'm going to change the color. Now this is very similar to the tool chest that I did before. Let's choose sort of a dark red color there. I will drop the roughness down a little bit as well. And I'm going to start adding some stuff to this. This is a paint layer. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add, not that, I'm going to add a black mask and a generator, and I'm going to choose metal edges. So we have this. I'm going to invert. I'm going to bring the contrast all the way up and start decreasing the wear level. And let's use triplanar, and we'll get just a couple of these little nicks out of it here and there. And that's basically what I'm going to go for. I'm going to add a little bit more to that in a moment. But let's try, yeah, that's good. Maybe I'll change the grunge scale a bit. Okay, so I want to add some thickness to the paint, so in the height, I'm going to make that 0.02, maybe 0.025. Now leave it at 0.02. Okay, so we have that. Now I'm going to add, let's see, let's add a fill layer, and in there, I'm going to search for grunge. Let's try this grunge. I'm going to invert this, change this to triplanar, and we'll adjust the scale maybe to 2, and let's bring the contrast up and the balance way down, and we'll get a few more of these sort of nicks out of it, chipped paint type thing. Just a hint of that. I might try a different grunge map. I think I like that one a little bit better. You can see that I lose my other one when I do this, so I'm going to switch this from normal to multiply. so I get both of them. I'll come back to this one. That's more along the lines of what I'm looking for. All right. Okay, so far so good. So that's my paint layer. I'm going to add another fill. And in the base color, I'm going to add a rust material. So I am using a pre-made material here. And I'm going to turn that to triplanar and up the roughness to about 0.8. And we'll come over here and I'll add a black mask, and I'll use a smart mask now. I'll search for rust, and let's try this edge rust. All right, so it's quite strong. Let's just decrease this so there's just a little bit of rust on here. All right, we'll start with that. And then over here, I'm going to add, I think, a generator and a dirt generator to bring some dirt in. Decrease that. And that'll go on the bottom as well, or it should underneath there. And similarly, this one gets rid of the rust. You can't see if I turn that on or off. This one, I didn't invert the masks like I did here. So I'm going to switch this one to linear dodge. That'll add them together. So I've got some dirt. And I've got some rust. Okay, so it's coming along. It's very flat. All right, so we're going to change that now. So this is rust / dirt. I'm going to add another layer, a fill layer, and this one I'm just going to deal with the roughness, and so that'll affect the roughness of the whole thing. Bring that down to, say, 0.2, and I'll add a black mask and a fill, and in here we'll add another grunge map. Maybe we'll do this one here. Let's have a look at the mask itself. Switch that to triplanar and try maybe 2. Press M to go back to the materials. So now there's a variation you can see in the roughness. So if I turn that off, it's very flat. Turn that on. So there's some areas that are shiny and some areas that are duller. All right, so this is roughness variation, and I'll do one more layer on here. I'll do a fill layer with a black mask, and this one is just going to be height, so I'm going to alt click height, and I'll put 0.1 for now. I will add a fill, and in the grayscale I'm going to search for black and white. Black and white spots. We'll go for this one. Black and white spots 1. You can see the little dots there. Let's use triplanar projection for that. And up this, I'll put 15 for now here. And down here, let's play with the contrast. And I'm going to change the noise parameters. I'm going to bring the scale up. Try 130. All right, we're going to have to go more. Let's change this to, let's try 30. Even more, 50. I'm going to change that to 100 here. Okay. I'll change the opacity of this to, no, we'll leave the opacity. Let's try changing the height. Let's see if we go minus 0.05. No, I think I want it positive. 0.05. So they're just there. I'm only at 1K. I'm going to increase this now. And because I have different texture sets, when I increase the resolution on this one, it won't affect the others. We'll have a look at that. Let's bring that up to 2K. And that can change how you view your, your model and the sharpness of things, obviously. And so you may want to make some changes, but I'm going to go with that, I think, for now. So that's going to be my height variation. All right, so I'm going to come over to the nozzle now, and you can see that's still at 1K. All right, so this one's going to be very, very straightforward. Okay, we'll delete the default layer and add a fill layer. I'll leave the color, but I'll drop the roughness down to about 0.25, and the metallic will go all the way up. So some basic metal. We'll do the same kind of thing where we add a filter, and this right here. We're going to look around. We're going to see a seam there. So let's try triplanar mapping. Let's take the brush intensity down and the scale up. So we have this. That's looking fine. So far the unwrap that I did the other day for you is okay, even on that nut, bolt, whatever you call that. Okay, so this is basically metal. I'm going to add a fill layer, and I'm going to make this just quite white. And I'm going to add a black mask and a generator, and we'll try metal edges this way. Okay, let's bring down that. Let's actually go for triplanar and play with the grunge. And we're going to lower that some more. And then the way I'll deal with this is I will just really drop the intensity. We'll try 30 for the moment, and maybe a little bit lower, maybe 25, so that it's there, but it's not. And we get a little bit on here, but it's not too strong, but we get a little bit of brightness on the edges there. Okay, so this is going to be edges, and let's add some dirt to this. So a fill layer, I'm just going to use color and roughness. I'll bring the roughness all the way up or quite high, and a dark brown color with a mask and a generator, and I'll choose dirt, and that'll put it in pretty intensely, and I'll just bring it back. But I do want some in the crevices. Let's see how that works. Let's play with the grunge scale and the grunge amount. If I lower the grunge amount, then I up the dirt level to a little bit over 6. We get a little bit in these here. So I'm going to go for that. And I think the final thing I'll do on here is I'll add some scratches, because this part, is going to get bumped into stuff, and I think that will look good. So I'm going to add another fill layer, but this one will just do height. So you try to have your base metal, your dirt or rust or whatever, and you try to have your roughness variation and your height variation if possible. I could do a roughness variation, but let's just try this. Let's just knock that down a little bit. Sometimes I like to use color as well. I can try that with a sort of a darkish color, We'll see what that looks like. Add a black mask. We'll add a fill. And in here, I'll just bring that back, put a space and search for scratches. I can do that here, or I can look in the procedurals there. All right, click on that one. And that's going to put some scratches in there with some black. So let's just up the balance so you can see them for the moment. And the contrast a little bit. And then play with the scratch tiling. So we're getting a few more. Scratch length, scratch width. I don't know if I want that. All right. So I don't want to go overboard, so I'm just going to reduce that. Let's have a look at this if I up, because that's when your scratches will become apparent, and sometimes you'll say, wow, I didn't realize it was that much. And have a look for anything major in terms of scratches. That's okay, I guess. So let's try with color and without. So just alt click height. You get that. And with color, I think I'm gonna leave the color. Maybe I'm nuts. You know, you would think the reason it'd be a color is because there's paint underneath it, but I don't know. Of course, you could get dirt inside the scratches, and I kind of like it like that. All right, and that's the scratches. I'm going to come over here right now and scroll down, actually here, and turn on anti-aliasing. And this maybe look a little smoother. So this is what we have so far. Sort of following the theme of the toolbox and the wrench. And now I'm going to work on the knob. All right, so if I come over to the knob, you'll see it's still at 1024. These are both at 2K. All right, very similar for this one. I'm going to add a fill layer, and the base color is going to be almost black, and drop the roughness, so nice and shiny, just like that. And I will do the same filter. We'll do that matte finish thing. That creates a little bit of smudge. A little bit of smudges on there. Now this one was pretty low resolution. You may remember I talked about that. So sometimes getting a texture on there could be a little tricky. You know, if you want anything in particular, but we're not going to do anything crazy. It's going to be something like this. So we have some smudges in there, and it looks like some, you know, altering the roughness already by doing that. Okay, so next let's put. Okay, so that's our, I don't know, plastic or something. And then I'll put another fill. Let's leave it like that. Let's go for a black mask, and let's use a smart mask. And let's see, dust. We could try this dust occlusion. Let's try dust occlusion. And it'll just go in there. Let's, where's, what about this, edges blur? Let's try edges blur. And then come in here and lower the balance quite a bit. So it looks like there's some dust on here. Let's see. So we have a blur there, like that. And then if I lower the opacity of this to, I'll start with 25, just so there's a hint of it there. So I'd have that there, maybe even less, maybe 20. So this is, I'll call that edges. And then we'll add some dirt on here. I'll just use color and roughness. Roughness pretty much all the way up. And a brownish color here. And some of that's going to go in and cover the dust. But we still have some. just to darken it up on here and here. And that is pretty much what I'm going for as well. I may take those scratches from the nozzle. Maybe I'll copy this layer, come back to here, and this is dirt. Maybe I'll paste that on and we'll have a look at that. Again, it's pretty low res. We're going to up that in a minute, and so it's a little bit difficult to get much detail. Let's go ahead and bring that up to 2K. Yeah, okay. So now we can lower those down a bit. Just have a couple of things there. Yeah, that's what I'm going for. Just like that. Beyond that, it's up to you if you want to put stickers on this or other alphas. I was thinking I would come back to this nozzle here, create a paint layer, and we'll go for height. Maybe color, I'm not sure. Let's try just with height. Let's just knock that down a little bit. Go into orthographic and snap to the side. And I was thinking I would write something on here. What would I write? I don't know. Let's go for font, and let's try, since I used that before, let's try that one. And this is a propane tank, so this is like a PRO 3B. You know, Pro 3B. Let's try just putting something on there. So that's just with height. So let's try with color as well. And let's do like a black color. Now, of course, I can get the dirt in there using an anchor. But let's just do this. Pro 3B, just to have something on there. I'll come out. Okay, well, let's do that. And all right, so this is, I'm going to call it alpha. Sometimes I'll put another design there. I'm going to drag it below the dirt, and I'm going to add an anchor point to that. And in the dirt, I'm going to grab the dirt generator, open it up, and under micro details, turn on micro height, and at the bottom, micro height, choose the anchor, and switch this from base color to height, and we get a bit more dirt in there. Okay, so we have just a little bit of text, and then I was thinking on the knob, maybe I would put another paint layer, so it should remember the same settings. All right, but I don't know if I need, I think because it's black, I'm just going to go with the height. I'm going to lower it a little bit more, and this may or may not work out. Let's try circle. What about, let's just throw this on and see if it looks any good at all. All right, we'll try a couple of different things. Interesting. I've used that before. I think I did that on the throttle. It's a little too busy, so let's try arrow. I was thinking maybe this arrow. And for this arrow, you can flip it. See here, flip. You want it to turn that way. And I'll call this alpha as well. And I'll drag it below the dirt. I'll put an anchor point on it and the dirt generator. Micro details true for height, and choose the anchor point. Change the base color to height, and you get a bit of the dirt in there. Let's go back to perspective view, and let's make sure, yeah, we're at 2K on everything now. Okay, and that is my textured propane tank. So the UVs worked fine. All right. And I can now bring that in. I can export the textures, bring them back to Blender. So I'm going to start putting it together and seeing how all of these things look. I may have to tweak some of the colors, some of the textures. So thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.